All students will be able to explore the properties of a parabola and then be able to graph them using the vertex form, standard form, and intercept form. This is an example of a parabola. What I want to show you is that this spot here and here where it hits the x-axis, those are called your x-intercepts. And your x-intercepts, whatever they may be, let's say it's -2, 0, and -4, 0. If it's an intercept, the y value is always 0. So what I want to show you is that if we have an equation in intercept form, you'll know it's in intercept form is if it has two sets of parentheses like that, different numbers here. They're not the same. Remember, it's not going to be squared. So that's what's going to be considered vertex form. So if I give you something like this, two sets of parentheses, you don't see a square next to anything, and these are different numbers here. That's what you're going to be considered intercept form. So how do you know if it opens up or down? That's going to be the same. If A is positive, that's the number out front, then it's going to go up. If A is negative, the parabola will go downward. Now your x-intercepts are going to be the opposite of the numbers in the parentheses. Now let me explain why here in a second. So remember that this should look familiar from your factoring days. When you have two sets of parentheses next to each other, we're going to set these equal to 0. So I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0. It's called the zero product property. So if I solve that one, I would have to add 4 to both sides to get it to get x alone. And this one I would have to add 3 to both sides to get x alone. So that's why we just say it's going to be the opposite of the numbers in the parentheses. And then your axis of symmetry is going to lead into the vertex. Your axis of symmetry is going to be the halfway mark between these two. So you kind of look up here, if you look at this graph, if this is an x-intercept and that's an x-intercept, we go halfway, and that's going to be your axis of symmetry. And that's also going to be where your vertex is located. So your axis of symmetry is halfway between the x-intercepts. And that's also the x-coordinate of your vertex. So in this case, if my example was 4 and 3, halfway between these two would be 3.5. And then if I want to get the y-coordinate, I would just have to plug 3.5 into my problem. So let's look at this one. So based on this -2, it's going to open downward. And since I have x plus 3 as one parenthesis and x minus 1, I'm going to do the opposite. It's going to be -3 and +1. So 1, 2, 3. Here's an x-intercept and +1. Now what's halfway between -3 and +1? The halfway mark is -1. So here's my axis of symmetry. And my vertex now is going to be -1 something. So let's figure out the y-coordinate. Let's go back to our equation. And I'm going to plug a -1 in for x here and there. So this parenthesis will become 2. This parenthesis will become -2. And there already was a -2 out in front. So now if you do the math, -2 times 2 times -2, you'll get +8. So our vertex is going to be -1, +8. So -1 is here, +8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Barely have enough room here. And now I connect the vertex to my x-intercept and make my way down here. Same thing on this side. And notice that my parabola is opening downward. In my opinion, when you use intercept form, you only need 3 points. I mean, if you want to get more points, go right ahead, but you don't need to. If you did, let me show you a quick way to get it. Okay, the vertex I would put in the middle, -1, 8. The two intercepts I would put out the front and the bottom here. So I would put -3, 0, and +1, 0. Now this is the quick and easy way. What's halfway between -1 and -3? And what's halfway between -1 and 1? So halfway between these two would be -2. And halfway between these two would be 0. They're both going to have the same y value, so it doesn't matter what you pick. I would pick 0 to plug it in. So if I plug 0 in here and here, I'll get -2, and then 0 plus 3, and 0 minus 1. So if you multiply those together, that should give you +6. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we were a little bit off there. This one looked better. So now you should be able to graph in vertex form, which I think is the easiest, standard form, which I think is the hardest, or I should say longest, and then intercept form, which is kind of like you're in between.